Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Edge of Tomorrow, which stars Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I thought it looked like it was going to be good, but I can't say I was all that eager to see it. It was placed below A Million Ways to Die in the West, Godzilla, X-Men Days of Future Past, and even The Amazing Spider-Man 2, in terms of the level of excitement it generated from me. I can't say I was all that pumped up to go watch it. So I find it a little ironic that the film I can't say I was anticipating too much ended up being one of my favorite summer blockbusters of this year so far, anyway. This movie is really good. Let me bring up my notes real quick. Now, most summer blockbusters emphasize spectacle over script. They're more about the high-octane action sequences and the, incredibly larger-than-life special effects. And that's fine. I can enjoy many movies that have those priorities. But what makes the summer kind of unusual is that it seems like the majority of the summer blockbusters are really trying to, have really good scripts. But unfortunately, for the most part, they haven't totally succeeded. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and X-Men Days of Future Past really did push their screenplays, just as much as they pushed the spectacle. But, those scripts were just too flawed to where I almost at times wished they just go the pure spectacle route. Maybe not X-Men Days of Future Past. I was mostly content with that movie, even though it had a lot of missed opportunities. But in the Amazing Spider-Man 2's case, I was very underwhelmed, despite the fact that, yeah, there was a lot of effort put into writing it. But what makes Edge of Tomorrow so unique, and is why I cherish it, is that it balances script and spectacle so perfectly, even though it seems like it's almost non-stop action. I mean, it seems like, there's not a 5 or 10 minutes that go by before they get into some big fight scene or some big battle sequence, or some major special effect will take over the screen. And yet the script was very profound. There was a lot of effort put into it, and that's a real difficult balance to pull off. In terms of spectacle, I thought the special effects were flawless. At no point did I see the CGI creations as just CGI creations. I'm like, okay, those are aliens. I did feel the alien designs were a little generic. I mean, I feel like I've seen these kinds of creatures before, but they were used in a way that made them very intimidating, that made them almost frightening. They had the right presence, and I also like how the aliens are smart. They're just as cunning as the humans, which made them very threatening. The battle sequences are cool because there's a lot of wide shots, so you see everything pretty much clearly at parts, but then they also have a lot of close-ups that are where the camera work is very shaky, the editing is incredibly tight, it's very disorienting. Now, usually that would be a criticism, but this film uses that sparingly. In fact, I actually noticed that it was more prominent during the beginning than it was closer to the finale. And that actually makes sense, because when Tom Cruise is thrown into this first battle, he's totally ill-equipped. He has no idea what he's doing. He would be completely disoriented, and it's like the camera work almost reflects that. But as he becomes more skilled and more badass, the camera work becomes steadier, and the editing isn't quite as erratic. So that really made the action scenes for me and gave them a whole new level of depth. I thought that was really cool. Now, the finale I did have some issues with, primarily because it was just too darkly lit, in my opinion. Now, you could argue that once again you're seeing all of this almost from the character's point of view. It's very dark, so that's in its own way kind of disorienting, and you, like the characters, are having difficulty, seeing what's going on. But even if that's the case, I just didn't really like it as much. It's still an exciting and engaging finale, don't get me wrong, but it was a step down from the rest of the movie, in my opinion. There was a lot of suspense from beginning to end. I always felt like all these characters were in danger, and that there was always a chance that they weren't going to succeed. Once again, I think a lot of that is the aliens aren't just mindless creatures. They are actually very smart, and they could be just as intelligent, if not more so, than the humans. So you really do feel like a lot is on the line here, and you never forget that. And yet, the film is incredibly funny. I really enjoyed the character interactions. There's just a lot of great dialogue. All these actors, from Tom Cruise to Emily Blunt to Bill Paxton, they all know how to sell the right lines to draw the right emotions from you. So like Bill Paxton's kind of an asshole, but he's really funny about it, so you really enjoy the character anyway. If he was played by anybody else, I don't think he would have been quite so memorable. I wanted more of him, that's how much I liked him. But like Tom Cruise, I really do enjoy as a performer, because he can be incredibly serious. He can be very subtle and act purely with his eyes, or he can be like kind of over the top and goofy, but in a way that fits that character. And he knows how to sell the comedy, whether he's just reacting to something horrible that just happened to him. And this film is very dark with its sense of humor. Often the laughs come from the ways he suddenly gets killed and and it's almost always incredibly outrageous in the ways that he gets killed. So he'll have this scene where you think he's going to be incredibly badass, he's going to save the girl, then suddenly a truck hits him, and it's just so sudden and out of nowhere that it's hard not to laugh. But the people who see this and then react to it, that's a lot of what makes it funny too. And Tom Cruise's own reactions are very enjoyable, and yet it's never funny to the point where you forget that you're watching a very edgy thriller. And it's never so dark to where it created any kind of mood whiplash for me in regards to the tone. Like when you look at A Million Ways to Die in the West, my problem with that movie was I thought it could be pretty funny, and I thought it could be very suspenseful, but I didn't feel they went very well together. The comedy just didn't really gel very well with the suspense, and the suspense didn't work very well with the comedy. But this film, it always knew how to balance it in a way that totally made the experience that much more enjoyable. And I was especially surprised because the trailers, the marketing campaign, they really presented this movie as incredibly bleak and dreary. This film is nothing like that. It's actually, I thought, very colorful, and it was just thoroughly entertaining because of the humor and the suspense. And I thought the characters were really well written too, in that Tom Cruise's character, he starts off as kind of a smug, cocky, cowardly jackass, and yet when he's thrown into the battle, he's so legitimately terrified that you feel bad for him anyway, and yet he develops throughout the course of the film, becoming significantly stronger and braver and more heroic, but it's done in a way that totally made sense. Usually when they do this, it's like one moment they're kind of an asshole, then the next moment they're suddenly a hero. But this film, I thought, did an excellent job at developing his character. I thought it struggled a little bit more with Emily Blunt's character. She starts off as being kind of cold and bitchy. In fact, they call her like the Full Metal Bitch or something like that. I mean, the first scene we really see her do anything, it's she leaves Tom Cruise's character to die, even though he just saved her life. But throughout the rest of the film, she lightens up, but even then, I didn't really interpret that as character development as much as they just kind of toned down her bitchiness. Now, usually this kind of character, she would be always angry and pissed off all the time, and I wouldn't really like her for it. But no, I mean, like, she has a cold demeanor, but like once characters start talking to her, she isn't like that all the time. She could act very normal. Now, she does kind of develop, but even then I interpreted most of the scenes that were supposed to develop her, they were more about Tom Cruise's character. So for example, Tom Cruise starts talking to her about things she had told him in, well, previous timelines, I guess, before he had been killed and the day had reset. And at first I was thinking, that's kind of lazy if that's how they're going to flesh this character out. But then I realized the big deal with that was how Tom Cruise has gone through this experience a lot more than what we had actually seen. Now, prior to that, we had seen all the different time loops, even though they'd cut through the repetitive stuff, so it was mostly new material. But we realized after that sequence that he's been going through this a lot more than we realized. There's this other bit where they're kind of having this bonding moment, and she realizes that they had been there before, and we did not know that. And that just really makes Tom Cruise's character's development hit home much harder. So I was perfectly fine with how they used her in the end, because I didn't really feel the film was trying too hard to develop that character, even though I thought Emily Blunt really nailed it. It's hard, I think, to be an actress to accurately portray a real tough chick. A lot of the times when I see it, like my favorite examples are the actress who played Bulma in Dragon Ball Evolution, or the actress who played Jill in the Resident Evil movies. They're just trying so hard to come across as tough that it just seems so phony, and they feel like they're playing characters who are trying hard to act tough instead of playing characters who just happen to be tough. But the acting was great all around. Brandon Gleeson was maybe a little wasted, but he still did good. But the primary characters, they had quite a lot of room to act, and once again, that's very impressive considering this film is almost non-stop action. And that's really all I have to say. I thought this film was incredibly well made. I liked how it was directed, shot, edited. I thought the plot developed in a way that continually kept my interest. I was a little concerned because at first I was wondering the repetitiveness, whenever he'd go back from the beginning, that could get a little old. But even then, the film knows when to move past that. So I didn't have that issue at all. All in all, I thought this was a really good movie, if not a great one. And yeah, I think you should definitely check it out. I would even recommend it at full price. But if you want to be stingy like me, you can go ahead and do matinee. I just stress you really should see this movie and see it in theaters, because I hear that it's not doing too well financially, and it's kind of a shame that the best film of the summer might be the biggest underperformer. Well, I guess A Million Ways to Die in the West kind of bombed, so hopefully it will do better than that. But yeah, as much as I did enjoy Godzilla, I did enjoy X-Men Days of Future Past, and I wasn't too big on A Million Ways to Die in the West or Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I think this is definitely the best summer blockbuster so far. So that is all I have to say. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook. Please check out my Amazon listing, because I add so many new items and reduce so many prices. I do one thing every day. My last written review was of... Crap, what was it? I don't remember. I need to memorize these things, damn it. Oh, it was the Zatoichi movie, so Zatoichi in Desperation, so please read that. And I did kind of a review on Only God Forgives on my Facebook page. I was actually supposed to do a full written review, but I decided I couldn't really bring myself to do it. There's just both too much material, yet not enough material, and if I did a full written review, it would have come out kind of messy. But I talk about it on my Facebook page, so please read that too. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you go see Edge of Tomorrow, and I'll see you guys later.